Greetings and salutations, one and all. Come on in. Welcome. Welcome. I will be forward momentarily. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Greetings and salutations. Welcome. Welcome. Come on in. Alafia, Tariq, Lopez, thank you so much for being present and consistent with us. I don't have any co hosts tonight, at least not at the moment. So I will be moving forward shortly, momentarily. Just give me a few seconds here. Welcome, welcome, greetings, salutations. You are now sitting again live with the Divine Prince, live and in archive at your leisure and convenience. Divine Prince, Pan African spiritualist, practitioner, author, and advisor, Elagun Oloye Hudu Obeya Bokua, sharing with you in all things spiritual, mystical, metaphysical, cosmic, universal, healing and holistic, evolutionary and revolutionary from a Pan African hoodoo world spiritualist perspective, understanding that all is truly and indeed a blessing. If you can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test, and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. We are promoted, sponsored by NONVD, New Orleans National Voodoo Day. New Orleans National Voodoo Day is a sibling celebration, a sibling ceremony, if you will, that is partnered with Ouida Benin, where the original annual Voodoo Day was created and celebrated every January 10th in Ouida, Benin. It was a event created to celebrate and acknowledge certainly traditional voodoo, Fête du Voudon, a public holiday in Benin that and traditions that are voodoo ceremonies. The festival includes traditional ceremonies, dances, rituals that honor the spirits of nature and the elements, performances, spectacular performances, including Zangbeto masquerade and ancestral masquerade, much akin to Egungun or Galete ancestral masquerades, for those of you who are familiar, and certainly the rituals that honor the spirits of nature and the elements. There's also singing, music, dancing, certainly the pouring of libations and liquor. The festivals include large banquets, parties, if you will, balls, much like we have here in New Orleans during Carnival right now. We have balls that honor and celebrate the crews involved in the celebration and production that is Carnival and Mardi Gras, and certainly in the Black masking community and tradition, we have balls that honor, acknowledge the skull and bones, the baby dolls, and certainly the Black masking Indians and masking cultural tradition in general. Certainly, libations, offerings, celebrations, merriment, and the acknowledgement of ancestors and those who came before. We begin our festivities at the river, at the Mississippi River here in the beautiful city of New Orleans. Then we make a grand procession through the French Quarter, which many of you may know is the original city of New Orleans proper. And so we make destinations such as former slave markets and locations of note that are connected to the slave trade and to the lives, culture, practice, and traditions of the enslaved population. And we then find our way to the Tomb of the Unknown Slave at St. Augustine Church here in Tremay. And then we end at the Armstrong Park main entrance coming into Congo Square. I perform an ancestral ceremony at the tree and offer you to bring your libations, your flowers, your fruits, your offerings, your gifts for the spirits, for the ancestors, and certainly for the houses that come together to make up NONVD, New Orleans National Voodoo Day. There are more than one voodoo house in the city of New Orleans, in the state of Louisiana. There is indeed more than one voodoo practitioner. As we've discussed in previous shows, we talked about the many faces, incarnations, many paths, lineages to voodoo that can be represented. Certainly, there is the West African footprint that we are familiar with that can be found today in Togo, Benin, Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, and many other locations in the Congo and throughout Central and Greater Africa, if you will. It is an ethno-cultural tradition that encompasses many practices and ethnocultural traditions. And so when we say voodoo, we are indeed using a umbrella word, irregardless of how many U's or O's or what language is specifically being spoken or referenced. It is also a tradition of amalgamation and synchronization with the ethno-cultural practices of the Aboriginal and Indigenous people of any particular region, but has gone on to amalgamate and syncretize and in some cases appropriate and bastardize other practices and traditions that we now sort of group into voodoo, which really aren't exactly voodoo. Tarot card reading is a prime example of something that's not voodoo at all. It's not African at all. But, it's not so uncommon for practitioners of various faiths to utilize tarot cards as a medium for readings and consultations. But it can be misunderstood to be a demonstration of voodoo. Here at my house, divination is certainly conducted for parties and businesses and events, and I might utilize tarot. But here in the house, and certainly within my private consultations, I utilize Fa, also known as Dafa, Afa, Ifa, depending on the ethnocultural tradition that's speaking it. And so I use the 16 palm nuts, the 16 shells, the four kola nut divination in order to perform my divinations here um, at the house. And so I strive to teach, educate, and re educate, resurrect in some cases a more authentic demonstration of voodoo. Certainly here and in the education, I strive to in our National New Orleans Voodoo Day celebration, but certainly within our individual houses and communities. House of the Divine Prince in Hoodoo Central, La Source, uh, governed by Mambo Sally Ann Glassman, And then there are other individual practitioners within our group, within our tribe, if you will, that also practice ceremony out in nature. Certainly, we gather in communal spaces like Congo Square to come together. So we invite you to join us. We invite you to participate with us. Sister Val, I see you. Give me a second to copy and paste, and I'll throw it in the chat. We certainly invite you to come join us and participate. And certainly, if you are not able to travel April 5th and 6th of this year, 2025, you can certainly become a donor and a sponsor and have your business or your practice and logo included in our various advertisements, posters, and banners that will be utilized in the promotion of the event, but also that will be physically on site the day of the event in Congo Square. I see you, Sister Val. Believe it or not, it's hard for me to talk and type and copy and paste all at the same time. So give me a second here. I just popped it into the chat. So, beloved co-hosts, you are certainly welcome to join me. Certainly, microphone set up. I certainly invite you to join us and come on in. Just know I'm going to vet anyone unfamiliar. A few years back, we had someone creep in and post some really crazy stuff. So we'll have to vet any new or unknown uh, participants, but I invite you to join me. I still don't have my outside audio set up. Otherwise, I would let you hear, uh, just like last night, what I'm up against right now. I get the sound of brass bands, uh, merriment, and gathering, permeating the bricks to my house. Certainly, the traffic, the I call them carnival motorcycles and gadget vehicles that the young people like to bring out during these events. But I can hear it all where I'm located now. I'm centrally located to historic Treme. I share the block with Candlelight Lounge. That's my backyard. I share the block with Tuba Fats Park. I share the block with Treme um, La Petite Jazz Museum here in Treme. I share the block with um, Backstreet Cultural Museum here in Treme. I share the block with Treme Coffee House, with Treme Rec Center, with Craig School, with the back entrance to Congo Square, Mahalia Jackson Theater, and Armstrong Park. Uh, Love Orleans restaurant is right across the corner from me. Uh, Haitian Caribbean cuisine. Frita, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, or Frita, is two blocks over, another Haitian cuisine oriented um, restaurant. So I'm right where it is. People often ask, tourists often ask, visitors often ask, where do I eat? What do I do? Where do I go? And it probably sounds just a tad bit shady to them. When first I say I don't really eat out very much, I may have five um, local restaurants that I might support regularly, loyally, and certainly I seek to promote them. But I also, my second response is always, everything that I need to do can be done right here in Treme, right here in my neighborhood, within walking distance, certainly within blocks of walking distance. We have everything except a grocery store. We are indeed what you would call a classic food island. We have stores. We have, your corner stores and your convenience stores, within walking distance. But the actual closest real grocery store is Circle Foods, maybe 10 blocks from where I am. And then maybe 15 blocks, you go into the French Quarter, depending on the weather, the season, the traffic, and the merriment. And then there's a grocery store there. But restaurants, bars, gathering spots, cultural spots, it's right here. It's right here. I just ask that you don't show up at my door unannounced, without scheduling an appointment, without me knowing that you're coming. I could be podcasting, broadcasting in the midst of a ceremony, in the midst of a reading or a consultation, in the midst of an administrative meeting for SOS Coalition, Save Our Souls Coalition, which protects, the literal environment that is historic Treme, to include Congo Square, Armstrong Park, our green infrastructure, etc. Um, WaterWise, which is seeking ways to document and prevent flooding that is taking place in Treme and ultimately in various locations throughout the city and throughout the country. So I'm a part of a team that's developing, a way of surveying communities as it relates to their experience with weather change, global change, and certainly flooding, but then how we can then move forward in the mitigation of that. Certainly, NONVD, New Orleans National Voodoo Day, and La Source Voodoo community, we have our regular voodoo ceremonies and gatherings on Saturday night. They are open to the community and to people who may not necessarily be initiated into voodoo, and certainly West African and Haitian voodoo initiations. But that is available to you through our community, and that's every Saturday night. And then we have Creole class, Haitian Creole class on Monday nights, followed by our Haitian Creole hymns, if you will, our Haitian Creole choir practice. It's also on Monday nights. And then we have another night in the week where we gather for NONVD, what is voodoo? What is the language of voodoo? What does voodoo look like? And so when I say voodoo is for me a lifestyle, it's what I do, it's what I wear, it's how I act, it's how I show up, um, it's who I be, it's how I be at any given moment in time and space. It's how I confront weather. It's how I confront the challenge. It's what I do at the crossroads. It's indeed my life. It is indeed who I am. And again, an extension of nature. And we are indeed nature, is both within us and around us. It is our earth, our sky. And so it is indeed everything. Unlike the demonstration of other religions, particularly traditional religions, where people sort of get dressed and do their thing on a Friday afternoon or on a Saturday morning or on a Sunday, or any disputed Sabbath day. Uh, and then we sort of fall back into another cultural phenomenon and dynamic come, Monday morning, come punch in time, clock in time, at our workspaces. Uh, we code shift, in our religious spaces from who we are from day to day, certainly from who we demonstrate in social media. Social media has opened up a space of viewing a crystal ball into a reality that once did not exist. You only knew people for who they were on Sunday morning, or if you happened to have been at the party Saturday night, or at the gathering on Friday, you saw another demonstration, but you had to witness that sort of upfront and impersonal. And so technology has made the world smaller, and people bring their ideology and their politics and their religions and their truth in many ways to this space. Even in the attempt to mask, you still sort of bring your truth to social media through your demonstration, even in your masking. Our username can be a form of mask. Our AI developed icons or profile photos could, be a form of masking. And certainly our ethno-cultural attire can be seen as a form of masking. Not every be dreaded locked head, is Rastafarian. Not every be dreaded locked head is a Bobo. Not every be dreaded locked head is conscious. Not every Kufi is representative of Islam or Muslim in our very existence. Um, I could easily say here in the West, but it has become a global phenomenon as the world continues to get smaller with media and travel and technology. Greetings and salutations from France. Thank you so much, Voodoo GP. Thank you so much for joining us again and being a regular. Talk it over with Toni. She's here, but she can't get to the live stream. Copy and paste the link, not the dot, just the link. Uh, Copy and paste it from the HTTP, or you can just copy and paste from the S in StreamYard to the end, and then pop that in your browser. And it should allow you into the chat, into the studio, Sister Toni. And our beloved Kim P. Ford, activist, community activist, is not here either, so she may also be uh, dealing with some technology. But we got to keep rolling, and it's why I invite not only my co-host, to kind of check in with me, but I also invite my regular listenership. I could use some moderators. I could use some community commentators to share your experience, your witness, your footprint of voodoo, uh, and who you are and your community, and what you would like to see developed within the dynamics of your community. Some of you know that I'm also a leader and an elder in Ballroom, the historic Vogue It Down to the Ground with a Dip ballroom community. I am in the original House of Ballroom, the royal and iconic House of LaBeija. And so, even in that space, which tends to be fashion and culture and class oriented in our demonstrations and our performance and our fashion shows and our cultural footprint, but there's also spirituality and religion and tradition and culture, even in that space. LaBeija as a house is international. And so we have LaBeija members in France, in Paris. We have LaBeija members in Brazil and in other locations around the globe. And so, in this modern context of technology and internet and travel and the ability for us to sort of intersect with other people, places, and things, it's a new opportunity for us to re-educate and revive the spirit of ATR, African uh, or Aboriginal African traditional religious spiritual practices and traditions. We all have an opportunity to not only find ourselves and grow and develop along that soul journey, but also an opportunity to impress upon the greater populace who and what we are, and continue to create a space and a place for us to coexist with the other practices and traditions and religions that exist out there. Unlike mainstream traditional religion, we don't seek to proselytize. We don't seek to witness. We don't carry tracts and show up at your door and threaten you to the bowels of hell if you don't give your soul over to Mawa Lisa, if you don't reconnect and reconnect with our cans with who we are and why we should not be feared, uh, at the worst, or overlooked in some cases, and particularly overlooked as it relates to our grassroots reach, our community reach as advocates, in terms of activism, in terms of civil rights, human rights, community rights, for which Voodoo has always been at the center of, beginning with Bois came on ceremonies that were a series of ceremonies held to invoke very specific powers and deities. And unable to operate indeed within our divine power. Bois came on, in French mean gator wood, bois meaning wood. We have a Loa, voodoo deity known as Grand Bois, which represents the great tree, if you will, the ancestral tree that is symbolic of a pillar or a column for which our ancestors traversed from the realm of earth to heaven. And so Bois came on. Gator wood was the Haitian voodoo ancestral ceremony held that led to the major insurrection that created revolution in Haiti and ultimately fed the spirit of revolution into the Americas. And so when we discuss freedom, liberation, civil rights, human rights for all people, we cannot exclude our historic positioning in that happening, in that occurrence, and indeed why we should be motivated today, inspired today, to not just, coast through the next 4 years, if we're allowed so to do, but to find new, more innovative ways to reach our goals. Um, Protesting can be relevant. Certainly, protesting and marching can be relevant for a younger demographic, for those who, prepared, trained, skilled, youthful, are prepared to sort of be on that front line. But we now have other means of protest, other means of ministry, other means of organizing, gathering, and coming together, for which this space, this sacred space that we co create here, can be an extension of that, an extension of the awareness and presence of voodoo worldwide, but certainly our willingness to get involved in a way that religion sometimes pretends not to get involved. Just like here in the US, we say separation of church and state. We know there's never been an authentic separation of church and state. And we know that religion and religions play a huge role. Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Catholicism play huge roles in how government is run and operated and communicated here in the US. And so certainly other belief systems have our shadow effect, if you will, on the system. And it's time. It is our time. It is our season for ATR to take a much more prominent, visible, and active position in our community. And protections that we continue to need and require moving forward in this system. It keeps bringing you to last night's show. Okay, let me see. Um, am I giving you the wrong link? Uh, Give me a second, uh, Sister Toni, and let me make sure I'm not sending you an old link. I might be sending you an old link. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. And I welcome open communication, questions, comments, and participation. So let me know if anyone else has tried the link and maybe having difficulties getting in. Okay, try this link here. Give it a second to upload. Okay, now try this link here. Link is hiding. I just got to figure out where it is. So I'm pulling from my notes, and therefore I might be popping in the wrong link. So let me know if that link works. I invite your questions, comments, and requests in the chat. You can always type your questions in the chat, and I'll do my best to read them out and respond. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I gave you the wrong link. You should have the correct link now. Yeah, you should have the correct link now, Queen Mother. If you're still with me, try that. try that. I changed the settings on the show. So I believe from here on out, it will have the same link. We won't keep generating a brand new link. So if I did this correctly, this should be the permanent link moving forward for Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes with NONVD. So give that a try. There you are. There you be.
There I be. Greetings,
Well,
everyone.
welcome. Greetings and salutations.
Peace and blessings. Had some technical difficulties.
Yes, yes. And certainly anyone else who's joining us or would like to join the conversation and you have your camera and mic connected, you now have the correct URL. Just pop that into your browser and I will vet your identity and I will also allow you to come on in. I also invite you, if you haven't already done so, to write down www.voodooday.org, VODOUDAY.org, Voodoo spelled the French way, voodoo.org will give you all the information about last year's National New Orleans Voodoo Day and this coming April 5th and April 6th, our symposium on April 5th, and our actual day of events, April 6th. We will have a delegation coming in from Ouida, Benin, and West Africa. I believe we also will have a delegation coming in from Paris, France. We will also have a delegation coming in from Haiti, and we invite each and every one of you to come on in and be with us. We would like to welcome another co-founder and administrator of our NONVD National New Orleans Voodoo Day. This is Elder Reggie. Welcome, Elder Reggie. So Green Soup is Elder Reggie.
Welcome, welcome.
Please
Welcome,
come on
everyone. Thank you.
Speak a little louder. We can't hear you.
You can't hear me.
Turn up your mic or bring it closer to you or something. And if you will,
I just have the mic
yourself.
on the laptop. I don't have another microphone.
You got it.
Okay, welcome. Thank you. A pleasure to be here.
Please introduce yourself. Tell people who you are, what you do, how to reach you, and give your personal invite as well to National New Orleans Voodoo Day and what that means to you.
Okay, great. I'm here. I'm Elder Reggie. My name is Reginald Green. But I'm here to, of course, a member of the National New Orleans Voodoo Day, but also to support Divine Prince and all the hard work he do. I'm an avid listener. I listen all the time, but most times I just stay in the background. That's just sort of my personality. But I'm here. I do better when answering questions. I would say my imprint in voodoo is born and raised in New Orleans, Lower Ninth Ward area, coming up in what's called the spiritual church. The New Orleans spiritual church gave me a background into understanding the wider net of what is called New Orleans voodoo. But after getting that foundation, I went off into reading, studying, and traveling to really see what this was all about. And over the years, I just started putting together Humpty Dumpty back together again. Let's say if the egg was broken, there was pieces. I start putting the pieces back together to understand this full view of what we call voodoo. And that's kind of basically where I'm at with it.
All right, all right.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate your contribution. I know you, so I know that you have a lot more to say.
Yeah.
Elder Reggie has certainly been active in the community here locally, but has also traveled to West Africa more than once, and
Yeah.
has seen, ethno-cultural practice and tradition up close, probably from more than one country and certainly more than one ethnic group. So again, when I say that voodoo is an umbrella term that encompasses ethnocultural practice and tradition regionally as well as globally, Elder Reggie in practice has witnessed that through travel. And there are others in our listening audience and even within our chat community that have also done that travel and has made that connection. And it helps to, in my opinion, uh, sort of lessen the miseducation that some would still seek to project about what voodoo is, where voodoo is located, who's actually practicing voodoo, what's authentic versus what's not authentic. Some of you think Orisha worship and Isheshe is not voodoo, and it's actually a part of this umbrella term and cultural practice that is indeed voodoo. The three of us have, at some point, well, certainly me, Elder Reggie and I have mentioned our experiences with the Black spiritualist commercial.
Yes.
Really Christianized name, but we grew up psychologically separating that from what voodoo is. And certainly Hollywood, Halloween, fantasy, fiction, book authors have helped to contribute to the miseducation about what voodoo is, what the language of voodoo is, what the demonstration of voodoo looks like. They played a large role in the continued miseducation and in many cases deliberate misconstruing of what the practice and the tradition is for other nefarious reasoning. I would even go as far as to say some religious figureheads within our community know better, have been educated, have had some relationship to ATR, Aboriginal African traditional religious systems in its various facets, and deliberately seek to mislead, misguide, and confuse the community.
Yes. But one
Third,
Divine, one thing I like to add, if I could, um, one reason I stay kind of in the background because I try to stay away from controversy with others. Because when I first started out in the '90s, I was bumping heads with the Lucami community,
mhm,
with the Hispanic community on what was authentic, and I just wasn't up for that fight with them. And so
mhm,
from that experience, I just pulled the way of who's right and who's wrong. I didn't want to be in that argument and that contention. So I had wanted to travel, move, and practice on a way that I could connect with and move forward that way. So I'm about to say something and it might come across controversial. And this is the one thing I try to stay away from. But when we talk in New Orleans voodoo, New Orleans, not Haiti, not Benin, the strength and the power of working candle is a New Orleans original and a New Orleans staple, and it is one of the centerpieces of New Orleans voodoo. It don't get the credit it deserves. It don't
mhm,
get the how I'm trying to say this. It don't get all the shine that is done. But when you're seeing people dressing candles, people using candles to bring forth their magic, that is a part and an original staple of New Orleans voodoo. And I'm saying that from the research I've done, just backwards and forward, checking. That is a New Orleans staple. If we
Yeah.
say what is New Orleans voodoo, when you bring up candle work, I don't care if you're from North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, whatever, they was not using candles. I mean, the witches was probably using candle in magic work, but I'm talking about the way we use it in the voodoo practice, the dressing,
That's right.
and yes, putting the parchment papers with it. Those are New Orleans voodoo things, and it stood on its own for years, and then it morphed out to other places, other cities, and things of that nature. But to keep it real in 100, that is a gift New Orleans give to the rest of the conjure community.
Yes.
That's right. I absolutely agree. And I
Mhm.
think too, we have to consider wax was expensive. You know,
Yes,
I think more people use oil and oil lamps, and we see some very unique and specific traditions in hoodoo and conjure and root working around oil lamps, which also has a great deal of its origins in
mhm.
Louisiana, in New Orleans voodoo. And beloved, we certainly appreciate and welcome controversy. It's an unfortunate reality that controversy is often sought in social media. Uh,
Mm,
this platform, my history of doing podcasts, which you have been a regular listener, probably a decade or more of my doing this since
correct.
Hurricane
Yes,
Katrina.
I
And so you
appreciate
sort
the
of know
work
my
you
style of
do.
teaching and
Yeah.
educating and explaining. And there's value in that, but there's also a greater value on drama and controversy in social media and in these platforms. So people like to argue, they like to go back and forth. I can remember when me and Toni Val were just mastering Yahoo 360. Back in that day, it was very common for the Lukumi, Santeria, the Latinx, the Hispanic community, uh, the African Americans to argue and go back and forth about, as you said, what's legitimate, how it's really done, what it really looks like, how it's spelled, and what it's called.
Miss
He
Toni.
froze.
Yeah, Miss Toni, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Divine Princess froze at the minute. He been having a couple of technical difficulties.
Yeah,
Okay,
please
he's
forgive
back.
me. I'm on that AT&T Wi-Fi hotspot, and it can be inconsistent if you're not paying attention to it. I have to literally keep it up and keep refreshing it. So once I start talking, sometimes I forget to look at it and I lose connection. Um,
Okay.
but I noticed even then that, you know, certainly there's that ego. I know more than you know. I have access to what you don't have access to. Um, even in our community, to the tradition authentically. And that's ego, having the money to do it, the wherewithal, the travel, the exposure, even, the language barrier. But
Mhm.
then again, as a mature observer, I was able to see much deeper. And what I realized was I was watching a group of people who were all in various stages of learning,
Mhm.
being new to this, and thinking that what they now have, what
He froze again.
Yeah. But Sister Toni Martinez, when I first seen you on the other night, you said you spent some time in the lower ninth ward yourself, huh?
I grew up in the lower ninth ward. I grew up in the lower ninth ward on Falstaff and Galvez.
Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I don't
There
know
was
why
a
we're getting
church.
so much suffering right now, why I'm trying to make this particular point.
Oh wait, go ahead. I know. Go ahead.
So I'm going to make this point. I don't know why it's buffering at this point.
Ain't
But
nothing
what
but
I'm
the
saying is,
devil.
yes, that's right. First, there's that ego component to it, but then I realized that they were all in various stages of learning. And as Elder Reggie offered, after you reach a certain awareness, experience, and exposure to the tradition, you withdraw from that. You
Yeah.
realize the pettiness of the immaturity of even debating that. You don't see authentic Masons, authentic Shriners, in social media going back and forth arguing about who is, who isn't, even though their practice and tradition is too being appropriated, bastardized, the symbolism, the words, people claiming to understand the meaning of things that have never even had real world experience with it. So it's important that people hear that from you, Elder Reggie. It's important that people hear that because whether you realize it or not, that's a common experience. I can't tell you how many clients come to me who have received a hand of Ifa, who have gone to Oshun Village or Osopo Village, or have been to Cuba, or have been to Brazil and have been initiated. And even if the initiation ceremonies indeed were authentic, and sometimes even that is questioned, you're still not there enough and frequently enough to really learn the language, to get
Right.
fluent in the language, to practice the culture, and the tradition. So those of us who are really seriously ingrained in this practice are often too busy with the practice itself and the lifestyle itself and attending to the needs of those who do get it and who do understand to get into social media spaces like this and sort of go back and forth. Sometimes, just as a podcaster, I question how much controversy should I really bring to the platform, just in terms of numbers. We'd have higher numbers, if we were calling people out. If I was sitting in judgment of who's real and who's not in their practice and what is and what is not. And that sucks up a lot of energy and produces a lot of toxicity that I've seen destroy other would be good teachers and good practitioners in this space who got so caught up in that I know one, I won't call her name, and there are many in this group. So just because I call out certain numbers won't tell you who I'm talking about. But one in particular has about 100,000 followers. But now most of her content is the drama, the controversy, pop cultural stuff like, the P. Diddy, controversy, just to keep that following coming. Because the reality is that a good 90% of her 100,000 followers are just random people who either find voodoo entertaining or a novelty or a curiosity or like to hear voodoo talked about and discussed in witchy like language. You got a spell to bring my man back. Do you have a potion or amulet to help me to, win the lottery? But when you start talking about Ori, when you start talking about La Tet, when you start talking about doing shadow work, healing, not only personal healing, because a lot of clients come to me for very personal, individualized reasons. They aren't coming for their family. So when I say you have to do some personal healing work and work with your ancestors to not only bring healing and balance to yourself, but also to your family,
Yes.
Ready to hear that. Oh, well, I ain't here to discuss my mom and them, or I'm estranged from my family. So I don't want to talk about them. They don't get the interconnectedness of voodoo. Voodoo is nature,
Mm.
and we are nature, and nature encompasses everything that we are. And I don't speak from a place of philosophy, theology, book knowledge, training only. I speak from personal experience. I grew up and then eventually became estranged from my dark, shadowy family. Sister Val, one of the things that brought us together, as friends, families, and partners, is toxic bonding. We both had extremely toxic childhoods and upbringings. We both thought we was lost and in solitude to that drama at one point in our life, only for that to change suddenly as we got older, um, through experience, and putting in the work, and also through DNA. I begged Toni for years to invest in DNA.
Yes, you
And
did.
yeah, then she had, elements of her at that time unknown family also investing in DNA and ultimately found each other. I just reconnected with my oldest sister. She just turned 71 years old. His sister have reconnected. I hadn't seen her, heard from her since I was 12, her or her daughter. I was born in 66, she was born in 54. So she had a daughter, a 4-year-old daughter, when she came to live with us. My dad, my mom, and my sister were Piney at the time. We didn't know that this was my father's third of possibly many other families. We didn't know he had other kids until one day he shows up with this, grown daughter. And so we lost contact with her and we just reconnected because of DNA. So I don't want to get too far ahead of what Elder Reggie said. We get the drama in this space. We understand that drama in this space. We share that experience of initiating, possibly in more than one house, more than one lineage, more than one system, before we find each other in this space. Some of the people in the room initiated and did not feel connected, did not feel like family. Um, Again, they either traveled across waters to initiate or joined a community here in the US that did not necessarily focus and feed on building community. And as an administrator and co-creator of NONVD, you and I are now experiencing that in a very different way, where
Yeah.
we're now doing the work to bring authentic practice and demonstration to a greater community and getting a variety of responses from people, places, things, and organizations as,
Right.
as relates to our doing so.
Yeah, Divine,
Um,
if I could interject just for a second, I know time is running, but
Please.
because when when the fanfare go away and the Super Bowl go away from the city of New Orleans, our collective is going to do some prayers, do some libation and healing for those who lost their lives first of the year during that terrorist attack. These are the type works, real tangible things that we are doing as a collective. And like I said, when the fanfare leave, we're gonna make our presence there, and we're gonna honor those souls that lost in that tragic event. And these are some of the things that we are doing. I just wanted to interject that, Divine. Thank you.
Thank you for that reminder.
Yeah.
This is something that we as a community in NONVD have done before and seek to do as regularly as we have to do it. And
Yes.
that is to cleanse, spiritually
Mm.
cleanse, and bring balance to the energy where these tragic murders and events take place. And so certainly we want to do a ceremony in the French Quarter and acknowledge that terrorist event that took place on New Year's Day here in the city. He also referenced its long-term toxic effect on the city, in that
Yeah.
it is now affecting how Mardi Gras is going to be carried out, how Carnival is being carried out right now. Carnival
Mm,
is going on right now, all the way up until Fat Tuesday, Mardi Gras Day. I believe March 4th is
mm.
Fat Tuesday this year. This terrorist attack has also affected how the Super Bowl is being conducted. And
I want to say
certainly,
this about
Mm.
the
go ahead,
Super
Beloved.
Bowl. Y'all realize that the two terrible plane crash was in the cities that are playing in the Super Bowl?
Oh, wow, you're right.
No, I never made that correlation, but
Me
I'm
either.
certainly
I
going to
didn't
think about it
either.
now.
Think about it. I had
Yeah.
asked before someone a sacrifice was made, the children, all those children on them planes. And then
Mm.
the last sacrifice was the little girl in Philly. It was a
Yeah.
sacrifice of children.
Mm.
Children were sacrificed all under the age of 18
Hmm.
Mm.
right before this. And then the next week is the Super Bowl with the same teams that the planes crashed in playing against each other. Yes,
Well,
Yeah.
I'm a conspiracy
what I
theorist.
could say is the plan originated from Wichita, Kansas. In Kansas, a team from the state of Kansas is in the Super Bowl. So
Yes,
that's the correlation you're making?
yes, the children got on in Kansas.
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
They died in DC though.
yeah.
I
And it's
got you.
not a far reach to assume that the driver of the vehicle here in the French Quarter was targeting young people.
Yeah.
That first few blocks of Bourbon Street off of Canal historically has been notorious for young people in particular gathering there. We've
Yeah,
Yeah.
had previous shootings in that location. We have had previous street fights in that location. And because of some of the adult oriented entertainment that's located within that block, over the years, it has been sort of a gathering place for people of college age, the younger age demographic to gather there. So there definitely can be some kind of, if not direct correlation, some spiritual connection to all of
it's
these events happening and happening at this time.
That's correct. I see it. I see it
And we
now.
also don't want to um, ignore the effects of the orange clown as
oh
well, in
yes.
terms of people acting out their behavior and the drones. I think that all the controversy over all the drones, and then all of a sudden now there's no mention of drones hardly, and no one is even focusing in on drones. Um, I think two things are going on there. One, we know who's controlling the drones. They
Huh.
knew that all a while. Two, quite possibly, we are controlling the drones. I thought it was odd that this was happening leading up to New Year's Day, and that many regions are turning away from the old gunpowder based fireworks and are now using drones to produce their fireworks. And it takes hundreds of drones to do that. So when are those fireworks shows being practiced, being rehearsed? And they've got to be done during the day if they don't want to give away the show, turn on all the flashing lights. So I think some of that confusion around drones was our own government, our own city organizations who had those drones, who were rehearsing them for the New Year's events, but didn't discuss it for whatever reason. That is still being kept secreted from the general populace. And so that opens up my second hypothesis, is that we're already being spied on by way of these drones. There was the previous incident, I believe, during the previous Orange Clown administration, where it was discovered and understood that China had sent a drone in, I believe, into Washington State, was it? And there was a few days of controversy, and then we didn't hear anything more about that. So I don't think the drones are necessarily specific to UPAs or UFOs or unidentified activity, though they may be looking and searching for that. But I do believe between Russia, China, and the US, they own these drones. They know who's sending the drones. They may even know why the drones are being sent.
Were you guys aware that Elon Musk's brother has a large drone company and is a producer of drones that are big as cars?
I'm aware of that. Yes, Sister Toni. Yes, I am. Yeah.
There was a conspiracy theory that Elon Musk used drones and some sort of advanced computer system to mess with the voting.
Yeah, that's what they said. I want to touch on something that Brother Reggie said about the candles. Candle work was the first thing I learned as a little girl.
All right.
My mother was an adamant candle reader. And she dressed the candles, and I dressed the candles. I learned to dress the candles. I learned to read the candles. And me doing it all my life, because I did it all my young life with my mother. My children are candle readers and candle dressers.
There you go.
My children will call me at work when they were 10 and 11 years old and say, "Mama, the candle turning black."
There you go.
From the white candle, and the candle is turning black at the top. The smoke is turning black. I say, "Get out the ammonia, y'all. Start cleaning." And they had no problem. And to this day, they are grown and they still read the candles and do the candle work.
There you go. Yes.
Thank you all so much for coming and sharing your time and your energy here. We certainly invite you to come back and join us again. Elder Reggie, you are a great contribution to the show.
So glad he came
People
in.
among us who relate to your story, who need to hear your story. The Wi-Fi is getting really wonky now, and it may be because of the Super Bowl, and everybody's pulling on the Wi-Fi in my neighborhood. So we look forward to joining you again here tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'll get the links out earlier and ahead of time for tomorrow. I also invite you to visit www.voodooday.org, VODOUDAY, and begin planning your travel, your hotel accommodations, your Airbnb, your active participation in this event. And if you cannot come, certainly plan to sponsor, to donate, to be a part virtually of this event. Elder Reggie, Kim P. Ford is going to assist us in being able to live stream this event as well. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, remembering that all is truly and indeed a blessing if you can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test, and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. And no matter what you do, respect the voodoo. All is a blessing. Good night, beloved.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Thank you, Atlanta, Georgia. Tribe called Us LLC. So much unseen things going on here that others don't notice. Yeah, your third eye is open, and we appreciate that. Tribe called Us. We invite you to come back again tomorrow night. And if so, get your camera and your microphone together, and we'll bring you on as a co-host. Thank you so much, Daniel Neal, for joining us. Thank you, Fitness Girl, for being a return listener and participant. Tariq Lopez, Odabo, thank you so much for being with us and joining us. Please get your webcam together and join us as a co-host. We certainly look forward to you joining us tomorrow, and we certainly look forward to you joining us for New Orleans National Voodoo Day. A Tribe Called Us, my sister Wapani, her birthday is also April 6th. And in the year she was born, 1969, she was born on Easter Sunday. So I understand the numbers and the numerology of April 6th. And I'll ask you what year you were born when I meet you and see you at Congo Square. Our symposium is April 5th at Xavier University, Catholic University, Xavier University, and then April 6th from the river through the French Quarter to the Tomb of the Unknown Slave to Congo Square will be our actual annual National New Orleans Voodoo Day. Please, I welcome you, I invite you, I appreciate you. And if you seek consultation, if you have any other questions, comments, or requests, you can always visit my website at www.houseofthedivineprince.com. All is truly and indeed a blessing. Good night.